What is up, everybody? Ed Gow Jr., Dad, Central Ontario. Happy as always to be here to have epic conversations with fathers with my partner. I'm just going to say partner. I was going to say, yeah, just leave it at that. My partner I'll say partner in crime. Hey, Drew, what's going on?
Not much, Ed. Just looking forward to bringing great content to the people who are listening to the show. And while I've got this opportunity, I just want to say thank you to everyone who has been listening to the show. Really appreciate it. If it's something that you find value in, would love it if you do really two things. Share the show with somebody else who you think might find value. And please just submit a rating or review on wherever you listen to your podcast. We'd love to know how we're doing, just so we can continue to spread the word and get this content into people who can value it. So I'm looking forward to it. Another one, Ed.
Yeah, I think we only have epic conversations. Don't you know that already?
Sorry, first time listener.
I received that. So the Dad Central Show is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. Dove Men Plus Care believes care is the best of a man because when men care for themselves and others, there's a positive impact. Okay, conversation face on. All right, so that is done. So another epic conversation coming up today on the Dad Central Show. And this is interesting because correct me if I'm wrong, Drew, but this gentleman reached out to us.
Yes, he did. Yeah, he's doing great things, great work for fathers, and in a very important area. And so to receive that contact was like, yeah, this is fantastic. I want to know more about this. So I would imagine our listeners would want to know about it too. So yeah, really looking forward to it. All
right. So do you want me to intro? Do you want to intro?
You can do the intro today. I did it last time.
Okay. Well, he came on in the room with me before you did, so I'll do the introduction. So, Jay Gabrani, he is the founder of Prepared Fathers, and I'm gonna just let you guess what he does in regards to preparing fathers, because some people think diapers. No, could be something else. So we're gonna bring him on right now. Welcome, Jay. How are we doing today?
I'm doing great, gentlemen. Great to be with you.
Excellent. Good to have you here today. And we're really excited because as we were speaking before we went live today, this is an area that we've never had anyone talk about on the platform before. So why don't you just tell people what Prepared Fathers is all about, then we'll get into our conversation.
Yes, the simplest line is Prepared Fathers is all about how do we help fathers empower their families financially. And it means themselves, their spouses, their ex-spouses, their children. It's like a whole thing of let's get your family set up. Let's get a family moving in the right direction financially, whether it's planning, whether it's execution, etc. I just find that there's a big lack. We don't get taught it in school. I went to school and university here, and I never had a class about this type of stuff. And my kids go to high school and they don't have a class about it. So I realized that, wait a second, like I have the saying that kind of in a first world country, if you live in a first world country, you kind of need money's right underneath oxygen. So everyone needs to know this stuff, regardless of your passions, your interests, your career, whatever it is. Everyone needs to know these things. Yet we don't seem to have really good tools so that fathers especially can handle this stuff and help empower their families. So that's what Prepared Fathers is all about.
Thanks for the intro, Drew. I'm bringing it out to you now. Go for it, man.
Well, I really appreciate how you open that, Jay, because I think it's so important in many ways. When I think about just relationships, we know that money is one of the number one sources, or top three, I'd say, sources of conflict or stress in a relationship. When we go back to the show, fathers are impacted when there's the relationship health is impacted. Their ability to engage and connect with their children is impacted. Ultimately, everything is impacted. And so when you say money is right up there with oxygen, you're right. It's very important. And to not have foundational teaching, maybe in schools or in other forms of education, is something that, it's a gap. It's a problem. And it's something that, to me, the more that fathers can be prepared themselves, the more they can help their children be prepared. So it's a great intro. I think it's a great topic area. Really looking forward to the conversation. But Excellent. One of the things we like to do early on in the show is to get a little bit of the backstory, just to hear a little bit more about, what maybe even brought you to that point. And so why don't you share a little bit more of maybe the early years for Jay, how things got started for you, and then what maybe even led you to get to the point of now running Prepared Fathers.
Sure, no problem. So kind of the childhood was just kind of normal. Like you get a lot of these, born and raised, I liked school. I liked playing with my friends, whatever. That was all born and raised Toronto. I'll kind of fast forward to the first 18 years. Everything was great. No problem. Great parents, middle class upbringing in Toronto. So that there was no real excitement going on there. But at 18, I graduated high school, had to make a decision about university. And my parents, education, education, education. You got to go to school, become a professional. And quite frankly, at 18, I had no clue what I wanted to do. I'm sure there's a lot of listeners that were in that boat back then. And so I just decided, my dad was an accountant. So I figured, okay, I'm pretty good with numbers. I'll become an accountant. Well, let's just say, guys, that I spent the 4 or 5 years in university, wrote the exams, got my back then it was called the CA designation. And let's just say that I didn't enjoy any bit of it, one bit at all. So I had told my parents about second year of university, I said, you know what, I'm doing this because you guys asked me to get a designation, but I'm not enjoying it. But I'll tell you that I will not be working for anyone by the age of 25. I just said it to them. They rolled their eyes. They're like, yeah, okay, whatever. Just make sure you finish school. That's all you got to do. And let's just say that I did all that stuff. I did the school, and I basically, my last day ever of work was literally the day before my 25th birthday with an employer. I was employed by a firm called Price Waterhouse, and that was it. I left, and I haven't looked back since. That was 25 years ago, and been kind of on my own in terms of being an entrepreneur ever since then. So when you talk about transitions, kind of one of the themes of your show, that was not a difficult transition because I knew that I wanted to be on my own. I wanted to call the shots. But the one thing when you do that is you have to be willing to take the good with the bad, right? Because not everyone, again, hits it on their first business. So you got to go through the ups and downs, etc. So I went through, several businesses, a big restaurant cafe, a marketing agency. I ran a mortgage investment corporation, wide range of business experience. And of course, along the way, I met a wonderful lady, got married, had kids. And now we're talking about this other thing of my son, my oldest child, Jaden, was born in 2005. And I recognize guys. And up until then, I was in my early 30s when that happened. Up until then, because I was an accountant, yes, I had a kind of a financial bent. But let's just say I still hadn't put everything in place that you really need to when you're having a family. And the first day I held him if in the hospital, I realized, life's changed. You better figure some stuff out. And let's just say from that day forward, I really concentrated on, okay, how am I going to secure his financial future and my wife and I's financial future? So jumped into the world of real estate investing was the big one in and around. First started in Edmonton, bombed, switched to Oakville, and basically kind of took off from there. It's been pretty good. But again, transition wise, you have to make decisions when you really want to empower. A lot of fathers don't know what to do. And I didn't know what to do. But let's just say that just like a community that you're trying to build, I joined different communities, different mastermind groups, et cetera, did a lot of reading, did a lot of et cetera. So was able to kind of build that part of my life out. Now, when we talk about the story, now we're transitioning into my 40s. And basically kind of got hit with something in 2014. I lost my wife, okay, and lost her to suicide, actually. So overnight, whereas before that, let's just say that I was kind of the spouse responsible for the economic cycle, and she was responsible for all what I'll call the home and domestic cycle. But now let's just say that overnight, I became a single father of 3 kids. 5, 7, and 9. And to say I was lost would be an understatement. I just had no clue. Fortunately, because the real estate had done pretty well, I was able to take a 4-year sabbatical. And it was during that sabbatical towards the end, I just spent time with my kids, just had to recover and mourn myself. And it was after that sabbatical, I realized, you know what? What I want to do is I really want to make an impact. And I want to use this experience to help other fathers. And that was the genesis of Prepared Fathers. And that's where it started from. And it's basically been going kind of ever since. So hopefully that was like, tried to give you a wide range of my first 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the background. So still live in Oakville with my 3 children. So, and this is how life gets lived.
I want to jump in. First of all, congratulations for overcoming and not quitting. And I think there's a lot there for fathers and those who love them from what you just shared there. Question, how have you been able to manage the journey and the transitions?
Excellent. Well, I mean, like a lot of support. That I'll tell you. I still have the very good fortune of both of my parents and both of my wife's parents, my in-laws, being alive still. Like they're in their 70s and 80s, all 4 of them. So let's just say that there's a lot of support available when my wife passed away, because with 3 young kids, guys, like I didn't know what to do. So you have support there on the inside, the family village. That was one thing. And then just luckily I was a member of like those same groups, those masterminds and everything that I mentioned before. I had like a really close-knit group of friends, business associates, what have you. There's a saying, right? Like if you're in some trouble, who would you call at 2 a.m? So I had like this group of 5, 6 guys that were there. You need to talk. You just need to get stuff off your chest. Like you got to do it. So you combine that with, quite frankly, guys, I didn't feel as though I had any other choice. Those are my kids. And sure, I could feel horrible for myself. And yeah, there were many nights where I cried myself to sleep. But at the end of the day, when I wake up, those 3 are looking at me saying, okay, what do we got to do? So it was just a matter of you have to lead. And it was the position you're put in. And kind of, like I said, naturally, I was an entrepreneur. Naturally, I was okay to take the ups and the downs. So that was just something that I've just been kind of, that's ingrained in me. So that also helped make it easier. I realized that, listen, yeah, it's unfortunate, but at the end of the day, life has to go on and they're looking at you and you have to set the example. So that's kind of what it really was, Ed, was just you force yourself and you accept the help. Accepting help actually is a very, very big point, because sometimes, especially guys, sometimes they get a little, no, I don't need the help or what have you. No, you need the help. And it's okay to let people help you. They want to help you. So I think that was really important. I was very fortunate to have that group and to have my in-laws and parents. So that was the main gist of it.
Mm.
Go ahead, Drew. I have another conversation point after you finish. So.
Well, there was so much that I think Jay shared just in his, taking us through the story of how he even came to developing Prepared Fathers. Many great things that, we'll hopefully unpack through the rest of the conversation. But in the part of, I guess, the story that really jumps out to me, and I'm curious, as you just answered there, is you got to the point where you said, well, I just really have no choice. I have these 3 kids. They're depending on me. We know from research that, having children can kind of renew a man's sense of purpose, right? A sense of, I've got something to live for. I've got something to work for now. Yes. I guess really where I'm coming from is, what if there's a person who doesn't have that type of support? Where do you think, or how do you think a father could, find within himself the ability to kind of keep going in the face of challenges, if he finds himself in a difficult transition.
So you're saying if they don't have any kids?
Yeah, if they don't, no, if they have kids,
okay,
but they don't, like, you mentioned, support. You talked about family, you talked about close friends.
Yes.
You talked
Yes.
about some of those resources that some fathers may not have. And I always think about the father who's, far away from home, that their parents aren't close by,
Sure.
and they aren't connected to a group or anyone else. And I think, how does that dad keep going? So I was just wondering if you could comment on that. Like, what do you think would help, help a dad who might be in that situation, to be able to find it within themselves to just keep going, or to get some support?
Great question. So the easiest answer I can give you, Drew, is when you say they don't have those resources, I have a feeling it's more they're not utilizing the resources. But if we look at the online world, we look at your podcast, right? Like, let's just say that if I'm a dad and I just want to hear what other dads are going through, you do a search of podcasts about dads, like podcasts will come up. You can read books. There are resources that are out there that you just haven't accessed yet. Okay. So yes, and you might not be anywhere close, but that's the one beauty of now the online world, is that you can reach people and talk with people face to face like this. And yes, I still believe in personal meetings, that there's a little magic that goes on there. But even if you don't have that, you still have this, where you can get on a call, you can access resources. So really, it's just a matter of how many resources do you want to access, and can you access them? Because they're all over the place. They're all around us. And I think it's just a matter of your choice. And sometimes that strength of, I need help. I think the first step is just saying, I need some help. I need some help. I need some support. And like I said, when you finally do get it, then it's worth just letting it happen, accepting it. And that's a big, big deal. I find that if fathers can just do that, they're all over the place. They're all around you. Go on Facebook groups. You go, there's just so many. It's countless. So I think that's really the best way to do it. And the beauty of it is there's all kinds of specialized groups. If you have some mental health issues that you're dealing with and such, there's support for that. Right? If you have physical fitness issues, there's health groups. So I just think it's more a case of you're not accessing, as opposed to you don't have them. I think you can have them if you just step out and take a look.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Jay. And it reminds me of a phrase, what you focus on grows, or where your focus goes, energy flows. And if you focus on the fact that there's nothing, you'll probably find nothing. But if you focus on there's something out there, I just have to find it, you're more likely to find it. Okay. Thank you for that little segue. Ed.
Yeah. Jay, you're very blessed. I don't know if you know that, but coming from me, you are. And one of the areas I feel that you're very blessed in is that you've had, and not all fathers have this, so I want to really dig into this and share how blessed you are with this. Yes. You've had support from your parents,
yes,
and your in-laws when you had your partner and when you didn't have your partner. So for me, if you're comfortable, I'd love, as where I come from, I'd love to know if you could hail up your parents and your in-laws anyways, because not every father has that when they have a partner, or if they don't have a partner. Yes. How much has that support meant to you in your fatherhood journey?
Ed, people say, what would you have done if? So the way I'd finish that sentence, what would you have done if you didn't have that support? And I quite frankly don't know. All right. Because that's all I knew. I knew that they were there. As an example, my mother-in-law, when my wife passed away, my kids were still going to school after a couple of weeks where they stayed home with me. I'm like, you got to go back to school. So small example was she would drive from her house every school morning. She would come to my house and make lunch for my kids, right? And pack the lunch with them, drive them to school. And it just saved me kind of the trip to do that. So that's a simple example but I recognized, I looked back at it and said, oh my goodness, that just helped me so much. Because when I said I was lost, like I didn't know anything about how do you make lunches and how do you pack lunches and how do you arrange play dates and all that domestic. That was all my wife. My wife did all of those things. So when they stepped in with that, it was like an enormous help. So yes, I recognize that is certainly, I'm so glad that they're still around and they're still very helpful, even though they're getting older in age. But basically, it's kind of weird when I look at it. Each of the grandparents has a certain little area that they tend to help the kids in the most. I said my dad was an accountant. So my dad actually is he's a kind of an investor guy, and he talks about stocks and all that. He actually works with my son every morning at 9:30. They have a call about the stock market. My 18-year-old trades options and does stock investing. And he does it with my dad, who's been doing it for like 50 years. So my dad does that. My father-in-law happens to be a real fix-it handy guy. Like he can fix pretty well anything. Whereas me, I got two left hands. I can't do anything.
I play with my left hand. Stop that now.
He comes and helps me out with all kinds of stuff. So in the house. And my mom is one of those, she raised my sister and I while she was working. My dad was always busy with the career. So each grandparent kind of contributes their own little specialty and their own little thing of what they like to do to each of the kids and to myself. So yeah, Ed, 100% agree with you. Super blessed and very fortunate that even though I did lose my wife, that just they were there and they stepped in and filled voids all over the place while I was mourning, right? Like that was the other thing, is that I had to recover myself, like mentally, emotionally, because that's the first time in life I had really lost anyone close to me. So yeah, it was, that was what I mean. It was like a sabbatical, but during that sabbatical, I had a lot of help. So yes, definitely agree with you.
Thanks for sharing, Jay. Before Drew jumps in, I did that. What you just shared is a true reflection of the African proverb: "It takes a village to raise a child."
Village, yeah, family village, 100%.
So, Drew, go ahead.
Yeah, Jay. Well, I'm wondering that near the end, you talked about you were mourning, you needed to recover. Can you take us back into upon reflection, like what's one or two things that helped you through that process and enabled you to be able to make it to where you are today, or even get focused on really helping others after coming through your experience?
Yes, I actually have a very specific answer for you. And I had never done it before, but after my wife passed, and I can't remember exactly, I think it was like after about 4 or 5 months of, like I said, like cried myself to sleep every night. I didn't know how to handle everything. I started meditating. And that actually was like, you wouldn't think of it like meditate. It's not an overly physical activity or anything like that. But let's just say that, I read it in a book. I don't know if the book's on my shelf here. Tools of Titans. It was a Tim Ferriss book. And it was like a breakdown of all kinds of successful people. What are the tips and tricks and strategies they use? And the one thing, there was a whole section of all of these successful people, they all meditate in the morning. I was like, what's this all about? So, just got a meditation app on the phone. And all I started doing, guys, was 10 minutes of meditation every day, right? Before I did anything, you wake up and that's the first thing I'm doing before brushing the teeth, before seeing the kids, everything. And you wouldn't think like it's such an enormous thing, but I found that every time I did that, my day was like, I was centered and I was a lot more focused on what I had to get done that day. And basically it helped me just get clear in my head. Okay, you got to get A, B, and C done. And when you're doing that, that's ultimately helping your kids. It's helping yourself. So I think that the answer, Drew, is simple, that yes, I started meditating, but that was like a bigger message. The bigger thing was, and this was a friend in my mastermind group who had told me that, like, after months, he said, be good to yourself. Be good to yourself. Don't, don't beat yourself up. Yeah, you lost your wife, but just be good to yourself, because your kids need that from you. If you're not good to yourself, you can't help your kids. And that was like a message that really hit home. So, I just started figuring out what are the ways that I could be good to myself. So meditation, light yoga. I had never done yoga before. So started doing a little bit of yoga. Eating, just diet changed, not drastically. I was actually a pretty reasonable eater. I wasn't like a horrible eater, but just eating more healthy things and that type of stuff. So I think the overall message is be good to yourself, because I think a lot of folks, they blame themselves for things which are out of their control. And that's one thing that don't do that. Like, that's just, if it's out of your control, you can't change it. So let's not dwell on it. Let's not focus on it, and just focus on what you can control inside. So that's the best answer I can give you, is be good to yourself.
Well said. Thank you, Jay.
Oh,
you're unmuted.
There we go.
There we go. Sorry about that. Let's transition in regards to, how did the Prepared Fathers journey start? You highlighted a little bit at the beginning, but what was the beginning of Prepared Fathers? How did that come about?
Very specific answer there too. So one thing, when my first son was born in 2005, I did know to get wills. So my wife and I had a will, power of attorney, etc. I was thinking at that time when I did it, I wouldn't need it for like 50 years or whatever. Well, it turns out that, a mere 9 years later, that we needed it. So let's just say, with my background as an accountant, I figured, okay, I can handle this. I'm a businessy background. I understand this paperwork and all that stuff. It just so happened that for my wife and I, we were the executors of each other's estate. Okay. So even with my accounting background, gentlemen, let's just say that going through her estate and being the executor, and the paperwork you got to fill out, and just the steps you have to take, you got to deal with lawyers. I was overwhelmed, plain and simple, with my background, with my education. Remember, I'm a CA by training. With all of that, I was overwhelmed. And then it took me like a year to get through that whole process. And I recognized that. And then I just started asking other fathers, like just friends of mine. I go, do you guys have wills? I was getting the answer no about 60 to 70% of the time. And I was like, okay, so what would happen if, I don't want to bring up bad things like possible, but this is life. And like, life threw me a curveball. I never expected it. And life throws curveballs every day to people, and they have to handle it. So going through that experience of being the executor and not handling it overly, I got through it. It happened. But let's just say that I recognize that there's all kinds of other fathers who don't have any start whatsoever here. They don't have a will. They don't have a power of attorney. If something happened to them, oh, geez, like, we got big problems on our hands, right? You're leaving your family not only with the emotional mourning, right, of your loss. Now you're leaving them with probably a financial burden of some sort. And let's just say that, like, especially if you are and I don't know, this has changed a lot, but it used to be, 30, 40 years ago, the father was kind of the breadwinner and the wives kind of were at home. I know now that's changed a lot, but still, I know a lot of fathers are still responsible for the family finances. Maybe as simple as record keeping, paying the bills, etc., investing, what stocks do we invest, that type of stuff. And I just recognize that there's a lot of fathers who don't know these things. They need the help. So that was the first genesis of Prepared Fathers. It was financial preparedness, right? You're either financially prepared or you're financially negligent. Those are the only two options there are. So then I just kind of started saying, well, how do I help other fathers get financially prepared? That kind of morphed into, how do I help the rest of the family? Once pandemic hit, gentlemen, it was amazing the amount of moms that were reaching out to me. I don't know where they all found me, but I was, again, quite a few podcasts, etc. Mom started reaching out to me and like, can you help? And up until then, I was like, no, my market or whatever is fathers. Then I realized, no, you gotta help. If that's what people want, that's what you're there for. Impact. How can you impact people? How can you help them positively? Whether it was a father or a mother. And that's what kind of morphed into let's empower families financially. So, that's really the thing, guys. I recognize that that's a blind spot, and it's still a blind spot. There's a lot of fathers who just don't think of it, and that's really unfortunate, because let's hope that nothing happens to you. But in case it does, I think you'd rather be prepared than negligent.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Again, thank you, Jay, for sharing, the genesis of Prepared Fathers.
Sure.
And the identification of that very clear need, the need that, based off of your personal experience, man, I'm an accountant, and I'm going through this executor of the will process, and
Yes.
I'm feeling overwhelmed. Imagine if somebody has no financial or very little financial knowledge and understanding.
100%.
So, but you also referenced the idea of, just basic financial preparation, basic financial knowledge around fathers. So let's keep it maybe focused at this stage on the fathers. And you were obviously having conversations. If you were to talk to, let's say, a group of fathers now, and you would want to start with the basics, what would you begin talking to fathers about, and what would you be saying to them to help them begin to get prepared?
Great. So the first one is simply, can you get your stuff organized? How organized is your stuff, your financial stuff, right? Because I've met fathers who are super organized, like they know all the bills they got to pay, they know what their investments are, etc., but they still haven't taken the step of setting themselves up with a will, an estate plan, or anything like that. Whereas then I've also met fathers who are totally in the dark. Like, let's just say papers everywhere, receipts everywhere. Some things are, their insurance policies hung up in their email attachments, right? Whereas their, like bills come in the mail. They're just all over the place and they have no idea. So I think the first step is, can we organize your stuff? Sometimes it's as simple as just getting a file folder. That's it. Like, I don't want to make this complicated. Go to the dollar store or whatever, pick up a $2 file folder, accordion file, and just start putting your papers in there, like just all the loose papers you have. If you can minimize your paperwork and your clutter, you can really start helping yourself, right? Get organized. So there's the first step is, can we at least just get organized? Even if you still haven't put all your numbers together, et cetera, yet, let's at least get organized so you know where things are if you need to access them. The second step is, okay, now let's take the thing of, we got to kind of have some idea where we do stand. Like, let's record things. Let's record things down. This is not natural for a lot of people. Okay. A lot of fathers totally resist this, right? Like, I resist push-ups because I just don't like them. But a lot of people, the saying is, I say, no one can do your financial push-ups for you. You gotta do them. Like, this, what it is. So now, if you don't want to do them, this is where you make a little investment and you reach out to an accountant, a bookkeeper, someone in that realm that can kind of help you get your papers organized and get your numbers recorded. It's just a lot easier if your numbers are recorded, then you kind of have a scorecard. And I'm a big fan of sports. I'm like, if you aren't keeping score, you kind of don't know where you stand. So that's kind of the thing of, okay, once now, here's my numbers, here's what I own, here's what I owe, that type of an idea. Just really simple. Here's my assets, here's my liabilities. And like I said, you can always reach out to someone for some help on that one. Like budgeting apps. That's the other good thing is now we all have one of these things, and you basically can kind of do a lot of stuff on your phone. So basically, like that would be the next step. So you organize, you record, and then that's what you talked about, kind of one of your 3 Ps, right? The planning part. Now it's, okay, let's sit down and let's figure out for the future in case something happens. What do we got to do here? So that is a will, a power of attorney. Powers of attorney, by the way, there's kind of a financial one. Let's say you want someone in charge of your finances if something happens to you. And then there's also a health one. You may want a totally different person to look after like your health wishes if something happens to you. So those are kind of the big three. Now, yes, you can there's lots of sources online that you can go and get templates and stuff and at least get the simple ones done yourself. If you own a lot or owe a lot and it's pretty involved, now you might want to invest in using a lawyer, an estate lawyer is specifically, right? An estate lawyer who does this every day. They help families organize their stuff so that this way now to me, if you complete all three of those steps, you are prepared. Okay. Yes, there's little things of, do you budget your things and do you kind of have an emergency fund? There's all these other little things that traditional finances talk about, and they're all fine, but these are the big three. If you can get these three around, even if you're deficient in some of the areas, it's okay. At least you're deficient by going through the exercise, as opposed to operating blind and operating on hope that, it'll all work out. I hope it's okay. You just don't know. A lot of fathers don't know where their insurance policies are. They have no idea how much insurance they have, but they have insurance for what or what they don't have insurance. Simple things like that. At least you put it all together. Those are kind of the examples of what's in the accordion file. Your mortgage, if you own a home, your insurance policies, that type of stuff, right? Just keep it all in one place. Hopefully you never really have to look at it much, but in case you do, you know where it is and you organize. So those are the three: organize, record, and then plan.
So good.
Yeah. Love it. And Jay, I can relate because my godfather, who passed away about a year and a half ago, my dad and his best friend were the executors, and I was next in charge, but I was involved in all of that stuff.
Yes.
So I stamp what you just shared with our audience, and it's so important because I'm sure that we all know people who have fathers and non-fathers who've passed away and haven't had that.
Yes. And sad stories sometimes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's not a good sign. It's a very concerning. So I fully agree in what you're sharing. I want to ask, when you first started this,
yes,
what response were you getting from fathers?
Oh, overwhelmingly positive. That's Jay, this is needed. A lot of fathers were I don't do it. I don't have these things. I don't know these things. So can we learn about it? So when I was telling people about it, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm kind of setting up. This is what Prepared Fathers is about. Overwhelmingly positive, right? Been on several podcasts. I tend to get quite a few, thankfully, positive comments of where people might have been helped by some of the stuff that I'd said. So yeah, and yes, there's always going to be that small segment of people that just avoid it. They're just, and I go, financial ignorance is that's just not something that you can live with. You want to be ignorant, okay, go ahead. To me, like I said, ignorance is negligence. So I don't know how you want to go through life, especially if you have children, right? If you have children, A, or B, you are the breadwinner, and your spouse is looking after the household, they're busy doing that stuff. If something happens to you, now you're leaving your children out there in trouble and your spouse in trouble, especially if you're the breadwinner. So yeah, I just overwhelmingly positive at it. Was the response, even though people don't like talking about it, right? Money is a very weird subject to some families, right? In some households, but to me, it's not it's just, again, right below oxygen. You live in a first world country. You need to know how to manage and make your money and take care of it, etc. So to me, it's just something that you have to go through, right? It's one of those things. And again, it goes back to, no one can do those financial push-ups for you. You can hire lots of people, but as long as you're willing to pay, then that's fine. They can help. But in terms of taking charge and being responsible for it, yeah, you got to do it.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. We have talked on the show in the past about, men often feel this provision, like being a provider, is one of the main responsibilities of a father, right?
Sure.
I provide.
Yes.
But what you're saying, Jay, it sounds to me like if I don't take the steps of preparing myself by getting organized, by recording things, and then
Yes.
creating a plan, I'm
Yes.
actually not providing.
You might be providing in the everyday sense of, okay, I take care of my bills, but you are not preparing and protecting. That's the way I look at it. You are providing, that's great, every day. But now, again, the whole idea of preparing and protecting is what happens if something happens to you. Now, what's your family going to do? So there's my version of 3Ps, Ed. So that's kind of.
I also want to add on to what Drew has said too. Has said you're not setting your children up for success.
Oh, yes, not at all.
Because I think if you're a true father, you want your kids to be set up better for the future.
100%.
So if you're not doing this today, you're not setting them up for the future.
You have to give them the skills necessary to really navigate in the world. And that's remember I said each grandparent kind of has their own thing going on with my kids. That's my thing with my kids. Like, I'm not going to teach my kid how to fix anything because I wouldn't know how to fix it. But when it comes to like finance, investing, like they grew up, when I talked about real estate investing, like they grew up in it. Like I drive by a house that I was looking at investing in, even at 7, 8 years old, I was taking them to my real estate lawyer's office in the meetings. They would be sitting around when I'm on the phone. Just that like osmosis, they pick things up, right? And that's now the point where my 17-year-old is interested in options and stocks, and he's doing that actively. My younger two are like into the whole, they make some money on like buying and selling stuff on Kijiji and Facebook Market, like skills pay the bills is my saying with my kids. And I think that that's the father's main role. And that's something that I've always prided myself on is, can I give my kids those skills? Can I teach them those skills so that at least they can thrive and manage in the world? So that's what I'd encourage a lot of other fathers to do is, because again, now my 3 are teenagers. Yes. Now it's like, yeah, you're teenagers. You all have smartphones. You have this whole world available to you with technology. So you can do all kinds of things. And that's something that I wholeheartely believe in.
Yeah, that's great, Jay. I really love the image of your kids being with you, right? Doing the drive arounds, meeting with the professionals, being just in those conversations. I think that's really great. Many dads can probably relate whatever it is that they might be doing.
Yes.
And so here's the thing. I'm a dad who's not maybe in finance or don't have an entrepreneurial background, or,
Sure.
I'm very different. So I don't do those things. And I'm just saying I could be.
Sure.
Just for the dad who's listening.
Yes.
So what are the basics then that I can start to either apply for myself or that I can begin teaching and talking to my kids about to get them started in this process of knowing and understanding how to manage their own money?
Okay, great. So let's just talk about the 3 simplest habits. There are a few more, but let's talk about the 3 simple habits is earning, saving, investing. Okay. I think everyone understands what all these 3 are. So you're a father and you have your child there, like encourage them to earn money, right? Encourage them, even if they don't earn a lot of money. Now at least they get in the cycle. I'm not a big guy on allowances for like just being there. Like I didn't believe in that. I believed in if you put effort in and you provided some sort of value, then yeah, okay, you deserve a economic reward for it. So I gave you the example of my youngest 2, buying and selling Kijiji. Now, here, that's a perfect example. My youngest one, 13 years old, has been on me for having a dog, wanted a dog. And I was like, you know what? No, I'm not interested in having a dog in the household. And she just kept going. I want a dog. And I said, okay, that's fine. if you can raise and make $1,000 cash, you have to put it on the table. That's enough to pay for the dog that you want to get. That's enough to get the first vet bills done and food, like the first set of food. I go, then you can get a dog. Never thinking that it would be one of those things where you get excited and then you get a new toy, you throw it in the corner, like the idea would be thrown in the corner. No. In 3 weeks, gentlemen, she went through our garage. She found all this stuff, which was just sitting there. She cleaned it all. She put all these like 20, 25 listings on Kijiji and Facebook Marketplace. And don't you know, in 3 weeks, she raised $1,000. And she came and she put that money on the table in front of me. I was shocked. I knew she was doing some stuff, but I had no idea that she had already progressed to that level. And let's just say that I stuck to my word. I was okay, fine. And she's got dogs. She got Rocky. He's sitting in the next room, and he's a German Shepherd and seems like a really lovable guy. We've only had him for this was about 3 months ago that she did this. So that pride, that confidence at 13 years old, that she realized she could accomplish something, that was something that as a father, I look at it and say, wow, that's amazing. Because at 13, I wouldn't have had a clue. And again, that's a different time. The technology that they have available now, guys, it's something that it's just a great example of you put your mind to something, you really wanted something in the world, and you had the skills to go figure it out. And she would ask me questions about listings and writing and all that. And I helped her out as much as I could. So if you're a father and you don't have any of that right now going on, again, it's what we talked about before. There's resources everywhere, like online. And I said to her, I go, look, I don't know much about selling on Facebook. I've never done it. But don't you know, she went on YouTube and there's I don't know who they are, but there's some fellas that were selling this stuff. She watches their videos. She picks things up, picks up clues, and she executed. So I think it was the ability of lots of people get caught in learning. Very few actually implement the action steps and are willing to make the mistakes and then willing to redo it. So she did. She got the reward she was looking for. And that's what I encourage other fathers to do. Yeah, you may not have the experience. You may not have the tips, but you can easily guide them to the right direction. Maybe help them find the right YouTube channel or help them find the book or an audio. Again, that's the thing. There's no excuses now. However they learn best, whether it's video, audio, or doing, the world is open to them now. They have tools everywhere. You can just help them find that. And you never know, along the road of them doing it, you may also pick some stuff up and get interested and learn. That's the one thing that, I realized. I go, wow, that's pretty cool. So that's just one example. But again, as a father, that's what I'm sure all fathers want to see their kids thrive, want to see them do well. And look, my 13-year-old's got other issues, right? But this thing just put her confidence level so high. And she was always kind of the quiet, introverted one in class. And now it's like an enormous change because, again, she developed skills, and skills pay the bills. So maybe I'll point out to fathers, if there are some things that you want to help them with, just some focus on the financial side, is help them with marketing skills, sales skills, investing skills. And when we talk about those habits, earning, saving, investing, if they can develop skills in those areas, they can do all three of those things. Even if they're going to get a job, marketing is your resume, right? You got to market yourself. Sales is your interview process. You got to know how to sell yourself. So that's what I'd point fathers in that direction. Even if you have no experience in it, those are the resources you want to help them aim towards.
Nice. I like that so much. That's a masterclass right there. I would say the number of things that I just picked up on. I think, first of all, kudos to your daughter to make a decision and take action.
Take action. Yes.
Like you said, we have knowledge overload these days, dads. Make a decision, take action. And a lot of times you're just going to surprise yourself. Another thing too is, and I love how you said this, dads, if you have this opportunity, learn with your children.
With your kids. Oh, yeah.
Because you'll probably pick up on some stuff too. And also it provides quality time. Your child or children say, hey, my dad believes in my future so much that he's learning this with me.
100%. There's this big word out there called side hustles.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to develop a side hustle, develop it with your kid. Like, it's awesome.
That's huge. And I just think there's so much richness in what you just shared there in regards to, to take time and learn, because you're probably going to learn more than they are. But believe it or not. And another thing too with dads, when you're teaching your kids, I believe with options comes freedom. More options, more freedom.
Choices.
So
yes.
dad and choices. So if you can set that up for your children, dads, they're going to love you for life.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Those are the things. That's what the foundation of, again, for me, that's the one thing I could teach my kids. I can't teach them how to throw a football and all fix. Like, I don't know any of those things, right, to teach them. But the things that I do know, I can teach them. Maybe you are big into music. Well, teach them about that, right? Like, maybe you are a fix-it, like a handy guy. Teach them about that, right? Like, that's just the thing. Every father has got their area, right? Whether they know it or not, they all have an area. What do you gravitate towards when you have free time? What are you searching for online when you have free time? That's probably the first kind of thing you should look at and say, yeah, I'm actually okay at this stuff. I'm not bad at these things. So, that's what I encourage fathers to do, right? Like, that's what your kids deserve. They deserve kind of what you can give them. And that's really the best thing.
Jay, it's been a real treat to have you on the show. I loved hearing your story. I loved hearing the things you're sharing. There's one final thing I want to bring up that's based on what you said. And it came, actually, I was having a conversation with another good friend about, half hour before we came on to the record today. And he was alone on the weekend with his 5 kids. His wife was, took a trip to be with the girls. And so he was on daddy duty, we'll say, for the weekend.
Right.
And he was telling me the story of how he essentially kind of, gave them the come to Jesus moment the first day they dropped them off at school. Here's how the weekend's going to go if you do, these types of things.
Sure.
And just to summarize it, it was essentially this: I'm holding you highly capable. You can do everything that you can do. If you can do it on your own, I don't need to do it for you per se. This is kind of the summary message. And when you said to your 13-year-old daughter, okay, well, if you can earn this much and you can do this, then you've got that opportunity. And so you basically gave her this idea that, oh, I can do this. If you essentially, conferred this belief to her that, oh, I can earn $1,000. Right. There was probably no question in her mind that says, go earn $1,000 and I can do it. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go do it. So that to me is a really powerful principle for fathers to take away. When you hold your children capable, you'll be sometimes amazed at what they come back with and show up with, because you've inferred your belief that they can actually do it. So that to me was really cool and a great part of that story that I want to make sure people catch. When you hold your kids capable, they can achieve great things. So
wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, Jay, we're going to let you go, but thanks for taking time out of your positive, productive schedule of being a dad, being a servant to so many other fathers and families. We really appreciate the time you spent with us today. How can people get in touch with you?
They can basically go to prepared. Actually, I have my team put a checklist together for your audience.
Oh.
It is, it's financial lessons I teach my teenagers. So if there's dads out there who have teenagers, basically you can go to preparedfathers.com/Dad Central, one word. And basically they can download a free checklist. And it's kind of what I talked about, the sales, marketing, investing skills. So that's a great start. And if they wanted to talk about preparedness and all that stuff, I have lots of free checklists, resources that they could use. Just go to preparedfathers.com. And if they wanted to reach me, then yes, perfect. Jay@preparedfathers.com. Love hearing from folks, and ask questions. Like if there's things that you're a little uncertain about what I talked about here, more than happy to help. If you got teenagers, I think you'll find a lot of value in some of the checklists that we have. So preparedfathers.com/Dad Central.
Well, Jay, we want to thank you because you're the first guest we've had that's made something specific for our audience, our family. So we really appreciate you going the extra mile, but I don't think it's an extra mile for you. It's just part of your core.
That's just how it has to be, right? Like folks walk away, they listen to stuff, and let's make sure that they have something nice, simple, easy to digest, and that can help them. Like that's, at the end of the day, it's about impact. That's what Prepared Fathers is there for. It's about impact. So if I can help one father kind of get these skills, and that father can impart that to his kids, now my mission is being met, right? Like that's, I might never meet them,
right.
But if that's what's happening, then yeah, now I know that that's the good things in life, that you just can't buy that stuff.
Drew, any final words before we let Jay go on his way?
Just want to say thank you, Jay, for the work that you're doing. Thank you for sharing your story with us today. And thank you for wanting to just impact families and support them. It means a lot. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome, guys. And great job. You guys keep doing what you're doing, and look forward to kind of more future things with you guys. But yeah, you're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. And I know it's time to go because I heard your daughter's dog in the background.
Yeah, did you? Yeah, she's just taking him for a walk. So
that's time to cut it. All right. Thank you, Jay. You be well.
All right. Thanks, guys. Take care.
All right, sir. Great conversation.
Yeah, if there was one word I could use, I would say resourcefulness. I heard Jay, just describe the ability to be resourceful in the times when you feel like you can't. Resources are there. You got to go find them. You can find a way when you're confronted with a challenge or a roadblock. And so I think he's clearly a very resourceful individual. He's imparting that resourcefulness to his children. And I think that's a great quality. So really enjoyed it.
Well, I think not only in his daughter, when I highlight his daughter making a decision, taking action with Kijiji, also Jay, throughout his journey, he's had to make a decision and he's taken the action, right? He's taken the action. He hasn't stayed still, because if you're staying still these days, you're falling behind. So I really want to bless him and his family and his parents and his in-laws. Like, those are really special people, because let's be honest, not every dad has that family support. So when you have it, dads, take advantage of it, but also acknowledge how blessed you are, and make sure you tell your family, in-laws, how much they mean to you. Because at the end of the day, especially with dads, when family's with you, it's the greatest feeling in the world. When they're not feeling you out, it's a lonely place. So that just great stuff today. Great stuff. But as always, we like to say the Dad Central Show is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. Dove Men Plus Care believes that care is the best of a man, because when men care for themselves and others, there's a positive impact. As always, we want to hear from you. How can you do that? You can shout us an email or send us an email at podcast@dadcentral.ca. Also, too, we have our podcasts, what you're watching and listening to. Listen more. Tell people more. All they need to do is go to dadcentral.ca/podcasts. And finally, as Jay has a lot of resources, we have a lot of resources too on our website, dadcentral.ca. Please go there. A lot of downloadable stuff and more stuff coming. Exciting stuff is coming along the way. So as always, I want to say thank you for listening or watching. And remember to give yourself grace, and don't just manage your time, manage your energy. And we'll see you soon. Be well.